And that's it. Okay, hello, welcome. Discover Tai Chi in collaboration with Limb Power. And this is our 20th session. So that's quite something, isn't it? Thank you to all the nice comments and feedback that we get at the end of the sessions, and some people feedback later after they've watched the videos as well. So thank you too. Let's get started with I don't know, an easygoing summer evening type session. I don't want you to work too hard, but we have a few challenges in there. You know the rules: seated, standing, look after yourself, take a rest, make sure you do have a beverage nearby if you do need to take on some water or some hydration in whatever form that takes. I'm going to get started. I'm going to start standing up. Okay, so whether we're seated or standing, a little bit different start. We'll do happy days of the fountain. Really nice movement where we're crossing the hands, bringing them up in front of the shoulders, turning the palms, and then it's an opening up, and then a slow fall of the hands and arms with a little finger edge leading. And then we cross the opposite hand over, turn, open up like so. Look up if you can. That can be a bit of a challenge for our balance, just looking up. So just be mindful of that as we alternate each hand in front, turning at the shoulders, opening up. And the option, if you wish, is to have a breath in as we lift up, and then a breath out as we open. And then just breathe, very easy. If you're looking for a bit more of a balanced challenge, you can bring your feet closer together. But just be mindful that it does actually promote a bit of a wobble, especially if you look up. So just be mindful of that one. It's surprising how just having feet close together, if you're standing up with me, makes quite a difference. If you're seated, we want this sense of growing from the seat upwards as we open up. And then there's a sense of just letting everything come together as we relax back down. Okay, let's do this one more time. Simple, but really nice opening movement. Okay. Have a little movement. So that's just a little bit of side to side movement, whether we're seated or standing, shifting weight, just to ease pressure, especially as we can begin to feel it, can't we? Again, whether we're seated or whether we are standing up and wearing a lower limb prosthesis, moving about sometimes is a lot easier than trying to stand in place. So do take pressure off where you need to. Okay, let's bring some rotation in, and I'm going to come a bit closer because I don't need to be too far away. Very simple. Again, we're going to hold our beach ball, elbow relaxed, nice and down. Doesn't matter which hand is on top, but just take a note of which one it is, left or right, and move in that direction with a rotation of the torso. Turn that ball over and then move in the direction of the new hand on top. So basically, if the left hand's on top, turn to the left. And when the right hand comes on top, turn to the right. So just, first of all, get the movement. And again, whether you're seated or standing, just see if you can have a bit of weight shift going on from one side to the other. Very natural. Don't overdo it. But just see if you can have a sense of weight shift. Make sure that you hold the hands and arms low. Again, that makes life easier for everyone. Takes pressure off the shoulders. And we'll go once more to each side. Okay. And then we come back and recenter. And then slowly, slowly let the hands melt. And again, just take pressure off. A little bit of movement side to side helps. You can probably hear my neighbour's dogs barking in the background. I hope it's not too distracting, but I have got my window open because I do need a bit of airflow. So I'm sorry if there's a bit of distracting noise in the background. Okay, let's keep with rotation. Wise owl. Okay, so we're turning to the right and we're lifting the palms. And then we're turning back. And then turning to the left, lifting palms. So again, nice, comfortable movements, but involving rotation. Such an important movement for people with limb loss. We can find that we lose some range in our rotation. So it's a useful movement to explore, and explore is very much the right way to think about this rather than as a stretch. Explore your relative range of motion on each side without judgment. Breathe comfortably, or if you wish, take a breath in as you lift the hands and arms. And then breathing out very gently as we come back to the center before going again on the other side. Okay, back to the center. Once again, let's just keep that pressure release going. Really important part, and a part of understanding what it's like to either be seated for a long period of time or to be wearing a prosthesis. Okay, more rotation, but a little bit different. Left hand, just give me a little wave with your left hands, okay? Bring it across onto your right hip. So you're having, again, to turn and then just let the right arm lift like a wing beat and then slowly lower. And then bring the right hand over to the left hip. And again, a wing beat, so to speak, and back. So these movements come from Wild Goose Qigong. So we're just going from one side and then to the other side. Looking in the direction of the turn. Have this sense of a really nice, easy lift of an imaginary wing. And then go to the other side. Very gentle. Let's do one more on each side. Okay. Again, take some pressure off with a bit of movement. So, just to be a little bit more dynamic, but keeping with a bit of a summery evening theme, we've got a breeze here, certainly up in Yorkshire, so it's very evocative of the next movement, which is a breeze blows through the willow tree. So again, let's have some sense of shade and breeziness, keeping us cool. Options are, if we're seated, to maybe just have a little bit of emphasis towards that right side, maybe a bit of a push of the hip and the leg forward. If we're standing, We might want to just have a little bit of a shift forward. I know my feet are out of view. If I come back, just a little bit of emphasis on that side. And then we start leading the movement very easily, forwards and back. Bit of weight shift as well. Even if we're sat down, see if you can have a little bit of a lean into that forward movement and then a little bit of a lean going backwards again. Even a bit helps get those muscles in the trunk activated, which helps with our stabilization. And really, again, very important stuff. But again, we're going very easy. Again, we want to have a sense of coolness in mind as we go. Okay, let's ease off. Option is to go to the left in a similar vein. Okay, and then lead off with that left hand. And again, just have this notion of a breeze gently blowing through a willow tree. And we're enjoying that shady coolness that it evokes. Okay, back we come. And again, just taking pressure off. Again, not sure about you, but the liner that I have gets softer in the heat, which means that I kind of bottom out, or are more likely to bottom out in the socket. So again, you might find that you need to wear more support in the socket. Might be an additional sock or liner, or some cushioning at the base. Again, we all have our own little solutions and adaptations. So again, heat and humidity have quite profound effects on the condition of our residual limbs. So again, these are kind of important points, aren't they, that we might need to just ease off on our expectations and sometimes be much more mindful of how we're looking after residual limbs. Okay, let's do Stork paying homage to the moon. So might have a bit of a wider stance. If we're sat down, again, have this sense of tallness. And we're going to bring the hands up, looking up again slightly, palms together. And then again, there's this sense of settling as we bring everything down. And just a moment of stillness before we let the hands fall. And then we go again. Could be a breath in, very intuitively. Hands come down. Momentary pause and then down. Here we go again. Up and down. Okay. Just like the fountain or happy days that we did at the beginning, if you want a bit more of a challenge for those of us standing up, we bring the feet together. Okay. If you sat down, we can have a bit of a lean forward as we bring the hands down. Okay. So as we bring the hands up again, just be mindful of the balance. Come down and have a sense of settling. Can just make all the difference. If some of you have the scope, and I'm going to turn to the side as the hands come down, you might be able to just let the knees and hips flex and then come back up again. So if that's an option, it's worth exploring. But again, we've got to be aware that people have different scopes and ranges in terms of their movement and what their prosthetic limbs, if we use them, allow us to do. Okay, dragon, reaching out or grasping. Again, it's a squat movement, basically, for those of us who are standing. And if we're sat down, again, we're going to be leaning forward. So this is about stability. It's about getting those muscles in the back to support us as we reach forward. The analogy I sometimes think of is that we're sat or stood in front of a table or worktop, and on the opposite side is a magazine that we want to reach for, but it's just almost out of reach. So we're going to bring the hands up. We're going to roll them over. And in order to reach that magazine, we're going to sit down a bit, maybe. If we're standing up and we've got to reach across and then bring it back. And as we do so, we just let the hands fall away. So it's a long reach. If you sat down, you've got to find that point at which you can lean forward, but know that you're still stable and come up. And those of us who are standing up might only be hinging at the hips. So you might be sending the pelvis and the hips backward, and there's very little knee being involved. Or you might have the scope to let the knees flex as well, so that you can flex the hips and knees. So again, there's different ranges for different people, but we can all participate. Here we go again, last time. And back. Okay, I'm going to sit down for the next few movements just to join those people who are seated. But if you're standing and prefer to be standing, please do. I'm just going to have a little drink just to keep going. Okay, so seated or standing. We're going to open the bow. So again, we're thinking about weight shift from one side to the other. Again, whether we're seated or standing. If you're standing, you might want to have a bit of a wider stance. We're lifting the palms up, overhead, turning the palms. I'm looking to my left and dropping the left hand, but that tells me to shift my weight to the right as I do so. And then as I slowly recenter, I just let the hands lower. Lifting, turning the palms this time, looking to the right, but shifting my weight to the left. Takes a bit of coordination. So again, if we go nice and slowly, take our time, think about what we're doing. We can alternate from one side to the other, but just remember that we need to shift our weight in the opposite direction to which we open our imaginary bow. Again, involves those muscles of the trunk, of the torso quite a lot to make sure that we're stable. Let's do one more to the opposite side. And back. Ooh, quite a tough one. Okay. Lots of talk about balance and falls and avoiding falls, and people don't necessarily talk so much about stability and practicing stability. In Tai Chi, we move from one position to another, but we're always looking to be stable in those positions, which, whatever it is, even if we end up standing on one leg momentarily, we want to be stable. Let's have a little practice of that. Right leg, I'm moving it forward. Again, that could be just a bit of emphasis through the hip. If you're standing up and you feel comfortable, taking a bit of a shift forward with that right leg, that's great. And we're going to pick the hands up. We're going to turn to the right and we're going to push away. But as I do so, I lean into that leg and then roll back. And we're going to do a few pushes on this side. So again, stability, moving into a position, but not getting into too much trouble with our balance. We need to feel as though that we can be stable at whatever range we work within. Again, Tai Chi is about balance in so many ways, both physical as well as mental, emotional balance, work-life balance. Let's do one more push on this side. Balance in all spheres of our life. Okay, left leg emphasis this time. Once again, the hands lift, a turn towards that left side, and again, off we go. And again, we're taking notice. Do I have the same range of motion on this side? Might be more, might be less. Again, we just take notice, we observe. And just to and fro. Again, it lends itself nicely to an in-breath and then an out-breath. Really nice. Okay, let's finish there. Back to some rotation. Fisherman casts his net. So if we can imagine that we are on the bow of a smallish boat, don't worry, the sea or the lake upon which we are isn't rough, but we still need to balance a bit, okay? Because we're going to be shifting weight from one side to the other. If you're standing up, you may want to have a wider stance. I'm going to have my right hand overhead if you want to join me, left hand down below. And we're going to be turning to the right and casting our net. Again, you probably immediately notice that we get some weight on that side. And then as we cast our net to the left, the weight shifts. You could almost imagine that there's a gentle rock of the boat as we go with the movement. So again, just take your time to explore that range, respectively on each side, and don't push into a range that would have you unbalanced and falling into the imaginary water that we are floating upon. Again, we want to maintain a nice base of stability, whether we're seated or standing. And just breathing comfortably, not thinking about the breath too much on this movement. Okay, one more. Don't worry if we've ended up a bit out of sync. Recenter yourself. Let the boat kind of come to a rest as we bring the hands down. Everything becomes still again. Okay, so as we begin to approach the top of the hour, let's return to gather celestial energy and gather Earth's energy. Just nice evocative movements, places us maybe in a cooler nighttime environment, which can feel nice. And again, there's some kind of interesting research that if we kind of think cool thoughts, you can take that how you wish, but thinking coolness, imagining coolness can actually help us manage in hot weather. So I'm going to place us in a cool environment. I'm just going to turn a bit to the side. Okay. So, gather celestial energy. We're bringing my hands up. So it's nighttime. It's cooler. We're looking up to a starlit sky. Bringing my hands up. As we look back down and slide the hands down, we bring some stars with us. So there's a bit of light, color and warmth. And we gather all of that up. And then we let it go. And then, just in case we're getting a bit too cool, we wrap ourselves in the blanket of the earth. Just gently. And then let that go. 2 simple movements, but they work nicely. Here we go again. Gather celestial energy. Cool night sky. And then dropping those stars, letting the hands lift as if taking a blanket. Wrap yourself inside. And we'll do that one more time. Because 3 is the magic number, as they say. Up we go. Wrapping, gathering those stars. Let them go. Last time with that imaginary blanket of the earth. Very cozy, warm and comforting. And then again, we let that fall away as well. And then to finish, we can bring thumbs together, linked, hands resting right on the lower abdomen. Could take a breath in, followed by a breath out as we kind of almost sigh a little bit. Rest our eyes. And just for a few seconds or a few moments, we just breathe in and breathe out. And we just take on board everything that we've done and the day and the place in which we find ourselves. We're not trying to avoid any of that. We're just placing ourselves quietly in our space. And then you'll just feel it's time to just separate the hands, let all that go. And that brings us neatly up to the finish. So I hope that's been a nice session on a bit of a warm evening. It's been very kind of hot and humid where I am in Yorkshire, so I hope that's helped. Hope it's given you some food for thought in terms of how we think about ourselves in these kind of hot days. So let me stop the recording. I look forward to seeing you next time, and those people who watch later, I hope you enjoy the movements. Let me know, drop a message in the WhatsApp group sometime. Until then, I'll see you next week. So I'll stop the recording